Okay. So, welcome. Big hugs. Big hugs. We're doing this today. You probably can't see my arms. Hang on. Have they disappeared? We're doing this today, not this. We're doing this, not this. Does that feel good? Oh, look, and everyone's coming on because we're doing this, not this. But who knows? No. We'll try and keep it to some hugs, right? Do you feel like you need a hug? Who feels like they need a hug? Yeah. All right. Let's just see if this is actually rolling. Oh, it is. Hey. Okay. So, there are times when we need a little what's for, or is there? Is there a time? Is there? What would be a time? Think about it. I'm just putting it out there. I don't have an answer necessarily, yet I do have all the answers and none of them at all at the same time. But when you find yourself, so this is just an example, right, of words. When our words are more like this than like this, right? Or not? Depends on what it means to you. Yeah. What's this mean then? What's this mean? No, not that. That's the Wiggles. Anyone who has little kids and used to watch the Wiggles? Yeah. No. The finger, not the finger, but the finger. Okay. Oh, look, we're going everywhere. We're going everywhere. Let's keep controlled, people. Keep it in control. Bring it in. Look at my image for a moment. What's she doing? It's not complete, but this is one of my huge paintings. It's still in Perth. My Mona Lisa. This is the true Mona Lisa. I say a lot of my paintings are Mona Lisas because they are in continual process, but this one's been going for years. It's a huge painting. Why? Well, there's so much information in this, so much code in this, but also you can see the mandala, yeah? You can, not that it isn't full-on mandala, but you can see the center and what comes out from the center. Or what is banging? Do you know Big Bang banging? In continual motion of creation. And then laid on top of that, some more subtle, refined code. The polarities into one, masculine, feminine into the being, or the being into the masculine, feminine, into all that is, right? So there's all these layers. So all this information. What does it mean to you? Why am I bringing it up? Why do you think? So I'm not doing this, but I'm not doing this yet, right? Because I'm asking a lot of questions. And like, who really likes to be asked questions? I mean, think about it. Like, maybe if they're questions about things you want to tell people, yeah, it's an opportunity to be heard. But if it's stuff that you're like uncomfortable about, or you're not sure about, or you don't even know if you've got the answer, what's it feel like? I don't want you to go there now, but just, have a little quick remembrance of right? When you get asked something, or you constantly ask something, or you feel overwhelmed and people are still asking from you. So of course somebody would call me right now. No, be off with you. I'm hugging my community. I can call back later. Why am I bringing this up? I don't have my whiteboard still. It's full, but I do have, oh, let me show you this. So on a slight note, a bit of, well, it's not sales yet, it is, but it's my journal. Can you see it? Spirit Whisper Series 5, Ego Evolution. Anyway, I was writing in my journal, literally my journal, because that's me in the center of it all being birthed, right? There's the tree. And while I'm at it, oh, what? Another tree on that side. Bridge between heaven and earth. Whoa. Isn't it cool? Anyway. Well, so I wasn't going to show you yet, but I'm using them. Literally, I'm using them. So we have limited editions. So when the series comes out, which will be very soon, you can buy one or two or five or whatever. So they are limited editions. We're going to have them for each series so that you can take your notes. It's a good journal too. It's not, it's small enough, but big enough, and blank, because I'm an artist and I like blank pages so that we can paint and draw and things. But I wrote down, I don't know if you can see that, the mandala effect. I was using my journal, my Spirit Whisperer 5, Ego Evolution, evolving. And I was thinking about, so those that don't know, and I'm assuming if you don't, if you've just stumbled across me, which I think is rare because of the algorithms these days, but I'm Cynthia Harrison. This is Cynthia on Demand, and we will be going into our mastermind in, I'm putting on the clock. In about 15 minutes. But I have been doing this myself. Like, I do not share with you stuff that I'm not being shown. And I've been negotiating and navigating myself. And this is an image of me, right? I'm not going to show you, you know, I'm going to make it and so you can see it properly. If you wanted to, but it's not really about me. It's not about me. Oh, you're looking at journals yesterday. A little one with a really cool picture on the front and back. And look how thick it is. Solid pages. Like, I had to order them because I created them, obviously. But you may have to wait. Well, I'll give you the link soon. Not here today, but I created them, and then I have to see what the quality is like. So I have got something else coming, but I have to see if it's up to my standards, basically. And I've been wanting to create this for a long time. So some of you will sort of know. But, you know, I have standards, and if it doesn't cut it, if the material isn't what I want, then you won't see it. But so this is the smaller cup. I do have the bigger one as well. You've seen my unconditional love cup. I made that one as well. You know, the one I usually have? That was from way back. That was a series way back. I didn't sell those though. I just got it for Eric. And I got my parents, my mum and dad have a Spirit Whisperer 3 cup. So no one else has got them. I only made them for my family to see, because they don't really know what I was doing. So remember the blue one? The blue sort of misty background. Anyway, so they've got some stuff there. But I'm putting these out as a limited edition. And so, you know, if you want to collect them. So what was I talking about? Mandala. So it's not really, so in art and play therapy, so I am trained in those modalities. I went to Switzerland and I trained with Martin Kaff, and his mother trained with Jung and some other big names. So it's a Jungian sort of psychology, depth psychology, right? We're looking at the dark. And how we can see where the person's at and what they're, I guess, how they're navigating their own information. We can do it by, so some people will get you to draw a tree, a person, a house. There's actually, it's called the house tree person test, right? Have you heard of it? Have you ever had to draw a house tree or person? Maybe when you were little? When I went to Africa, so I was doing my master's in contemporary art. All my stuff merges together. That's why I have a mandala. That's why you look at this. This is an aspect of myself. When I went to Africa, I was doing 2 types of research. And everybody I met, I asked to draw a tree. But I wasn't looking for the type of information that general psychology or psychologists were looking for when they get somebody to paint a tree. I was looking for another language. I was looking for another way of meaning making. And so getting a 9-year-old in Australia to draw a tree, and there's a particular process, and I would sit and I would talk and get to know the person, and it was my most favorite thing. If I went anywhere, I was the lady, I was the tree lady, like literally. I check into a hotel or wherever we were staying. We stayed all over the place. I would get anybody I ran into, like the help, the cleaner, the cook, the owner, to draw a tree. And when I would leave, I would draw a tree. Instead of signing the thing, I would draw a little tree. I was a tree lady. I found out so much in South Africa, get an 8 or 9-year-old boy to draw a tree. I'd have an Australian 9-year-old girl draw a tree and talk to them. So they're trees. And I kept the trees. Like I kept it all. I've still got all of my pile of trees. But, I got them to write things on them then, and different things, getting to know them. So that tree was a metaphor or a remembrance of our meeting. Right? So it wasn't analyzing them in the way of, is something going on for them? I wasn't doing that. I was looking at patterns, right? That's what I do in the world. I don't know if you know that. Even, the patterns here, patterns of behavior, patterns of meaning, patterns of ways of being, patterns I see with clients or with friends, or patterns in the world, right? I'm a meaning maker. That's the core of what I do. I'm a social scientist. Yeah. So drawing these trees would show me something about that person that is quite intimate, but they were willing to share and talk about it, like their favorite plant or their favorite tree and what it is and how it grows and these sorts of things. So ultimately that was going to be a room installation. So I don't know if you know about this. So I'm telling a little story, but we're going to go somewhere. So my research was around the intelligence of trees and plants and using that as a metaphor for how humans grow or don't grow based on their nurture and nature, based on their environment and how they were cared for. It was back in the day when there was very little information on the intelligence of plant life. So what I was doing was like at the very beginnings of showing the intelligence of plants and trees. Now it's well known, right? Well, you don't know, you probably haven't looked it up, right? But I used to grow. So I would do environmental art, right? Grow and create sculptures and living geometries on landscape. Yeah. Right. And understanding how plants and trees move, what they need, what they don't need. And because I was already a social worker, right, I already was an anthropologist and studying the human condition, I was seeing the resemblances of the human and the plant and the intelligence. What does this mean for you? When plants, trees are treated a certain way, they grow a certain way. When they're neglected in certain ways, they behave in certain ways. You with me? You starting to get how this might relate to you as a human, right? How you are touched or not touched informs how you are in the world. How you were pruned or not pruned. Meaning there are what we call in, looking at the neurodevelopment of a child, like the brain development of a child, and how the neurons are pruned and not pruned, right? So different attention or non-attention shapes the development of the brain, right? So it was back then when I went around teaching about trauma and brain development. This was over 15 years ago. I was teaching this, right? It's not well known. Even today, you may not understand that the information you come in, how that impacts or how you impact another, right? So how does this relate to the mandala or the makeup that we call Lisa, Rebel, MA, pardon me, Cynthia, Joe, Christine, all the people. Right. So do most of you know when you cut a tree, you see the tree rings? You can tell how old a tree is by the tree rings. You can also tell, it's the same with rocks. One of my best friends was the first female geologist in Australia way back when she came over from England, because it was a male profession, right? But how you can tell the age of things, right? She was the rock woman, I was the tree woman. Together, we created the landscape, right? And she still is the rock woman. She's still doing beautiful art down in Darden up in West Australia. So go check her out. Give Lynn a shout out. But we would do amazing work together and travel around looking at trees and rocks. Anyway, so the growth rings. You can also tell when there's been some disturbance. You can also tell that for a human. That's my specialty, right? Looking at if we took this is going to sound horrible, but if we took a slice of your core and looked at it, where your tree rings are, where your human rings are, right? And where the hugs were, and where the were, and where maybe something even more detrimental. The body, have you heard that? The body keeps the score. I think it's Dan Siegel or Bessel van der Kolk wrote the book. Anyway, they're trauma guys. They both were teachers of mine, especially Bessel van der Kolk. So the question today, so I've got, this morning when I woke up, I was looking at, what do you look like? What do you look like? You following me here? Have I taken you too abstract? I am an abstraction. I do abstract things to the nth degree, right? Have I brought it in enough for you to go, oh, I have a sense of where she's going? Yeah or no? Just give me a nod either way. You get a sense? I'm not saying you know, but you get a sense. You can see my thread. All right, because I got to pull the thread in. I got to keep pulling that thread in. What do you look like? Not on the outside. Not like, oh, I'm going to put some lipstick on. Put some lipstick on for you today. But I'm all shiny. You can tell when I don't put makeup on because I get all shiny. What do I look like today? Not on the outside. The cross section. What does my mandala look like? What will the ring tell people in years to come of this moment in time? What will be recorded on today's ring, on this month's ring, on this year's ring? If you, oh, here we go, as a creative, because I'm seeing it. If you were to draw this ring, do you have pen and paper? If you were to draw what this year's ring looks like, if you were to draw a circle that was to represent this year so far, or so the last 12 months, right? We'll say for Australia, it's your tax time. So it is that year. What would that look like? And then, so it's morning here for me, but some of you it's afternoon, evening. Maybe draw a circle within that of what today's ring looks like so far, or outside of that, however that works for you. Or I'm just getting you to bring the body into it to remember, oh, what I do in every moment, how I am in these moments is recorded in my energy and in my physical. I used to joke and say, I've had a gray streak in my hair. Can you see it? You sort of see it. Since I was 15. Sort of been Morticia since I was 15, right? This, you can only see it because I do sometimes put a rinse in, but I've had this, gray streak here, small one, but it's getting bigger as I get older. And I'd say I've earned every one of them. I've earned every one of my gray hairs. And it's the truth. Although I don't have a lot, because it does relate to kidney energy. Did you know that? It does relate to kidney energy. Not necessarily the kidney organ, but it does connect, okay? So life force energy. So we could say they're codes. We could say that each line on this painting behind me, or each little geometry within the circles, or the geometries within the geometries within the geometries, there's so many layers. Do any of you remember this painting? I would sit on it. It's so big. It's about 2 meters. So as tall as me width-wise, and probably double me lengthwise. Or maybe not double, 1.5 of me lengthwise. Like, it's huge. It takes up the whole room. But I would lay it on the ground outside and I would draw. Like, I'd sit in the center of it. I would literally sit in the center of it and draw and write. There's so many layers of this. So if this was a representation of my existence, it's still not finished, but there's so much encoded under these paints. This paint wasn't painted on with a paintbrush. It was poured on out of tins. That's how big, like, do any of you remember it? It was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I started, maybe even longer now, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, about 5 years ago. Anyway, I did it online. I did most of it online. I was sharing it, right? So let me get back to it. I'm considering, so in Psi, which is a program, it's a 12-month program. We look at aspects of ourselves, right? And the next Psi, we will be looking at these codes, these mandalas, but they're not, I'm calling them mandalas today, but they're your codes, and your codes will show you where you need a hug and where you might need a and that is purely, so where there's a challenge, what it's showing you, where your challenges are, where the barriers are, what's stopping you, because everybody has something that's stopping them. So what I was talking about this morning, because we get up early here and do our practices, and I get information in my practices. So, it's like, oh, and then, sometimes if it's interesting, we discuss it. So I was looking at the barriers and why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. So why I'm doing a series and I'm doing 3 by the end of the year, right? Because I know my weak spot or my barrier. I know what they are. And so what I do is take my skill set, which is coded, right? And you don't have to guess that one of my codes is to do with creativity, right? I was born a creative. I wasn't built to create. Do you know what I mean? It's in my codes. So how I use that can be creating programs or creating information or painting or storytelling or whatever. But I've got back into painting. I'm oil painting at the moment. Yeah, so the whole lounge room is taken up by my big oil paintings, right? Because I don't want to lose my core. It is a passion, but did I make it my pattern or was it born into me? Because most of my family is creative as well, right? My mum and my dad, and my grandparents and whatnot. So where does that show up, and how can you utilize what your skills are which are in your codes, are you utilizing them? Because if you're not, the challenges are harder. Did you get that? Did you get what I said? I'm going to say it again, just in case, because it's so important. When we have a challenge, like, or a fear, we could call them fears, right? Something that we're scared of. Could be something that we are wanting to create but are scared of, right? Our success or our greatness or expansion, right? How to be in that expansion and just swim in it instead of going, oh, will I be able to get back? Will I, who am I now? All of this sort of stuff, right? In our spiritual development, we expand. And going into another fear from years ago, I would see the gateways, right? I'm a gatekeeper. I haven't said that for a long time, because it's misunderstood. But as a gatekeeper, I would see the gates where I would never enter. Like if there's just walking around, I'd just see the portals, the gateways, and I wouldn't enter because I didn't know how to get back. I thought I had to know how to get back. Anyway, that's another story. But that was a fear that I had this ability, this skill, this way of knowing, but I was too scared to take the next step because of the unknown. Now, that's all fear is. Think about it. What's stopping you? What's a barrier to something you want to experience or you want to achieve or you want to create or you want to, right? There's a barrier there. What's getting in your way? And there's an unknown. Who will I be if I succeed? At that level or at that place or at that experience, then who am I? If I get better, if I no longer have this ailment, or if I shift how my body is, who am I? If I get smaller, get bigger, get taller, get shorter, whatever it is, who am I then? Have any of you been going through anything like that? Have you thought about that? It's big on my radar because I'm constantly going, who am I now? Like, right? It's like this journey of knowing yourself. And as you move, if you do move fast, it feels like you're never really connecting. So that's a practice for me. It's a practice. So I'm in a space now of integrating, right? So so knowing those codes or knowing that information, knowing the cross section. Did you all draw your circles? Were they, can you hold them up? I probably won't be able to see. Actually, in the next bit, you can show me when we go into the Zoom. But if you're not in the Zoom, you can maybe post a picture or share me a picture privately. But use that to contemplate, like, do the circles meet? Do they have a beginning and ending? There's no beginning and ending? Is it wobbly? Is it jagged? Is it loopy? Is it, what's it look like? So the couple of things I wrote down this morning was, would you like to know your codes? Right? Would you like to know? So that means, would you like to know more about the barriers, what holds you back? Like truly what's holding you, what's stopping you? how they look, and more importantly, in some people's opinion, how to use it. How to use it. So on a very sort of top scale of, the top layer is where the challenge is, or where the fears are, or the past challenges, like in your core of your experiences. So that can go back to early childhood, that can go to your lineage, that can go to past lives, right? To the skills, the purpose, the abilities, the talents, the gifts that you have, right? Because it's the polarity. Can you see the love and fear in that? Just on that surface level, there's a polarity. Something stopping you, something that can start you. You know, bring them together, and they, I was going to say, cancel each other, but they don't quite cancel each other. The fear becomes your fuel, right? So the series that's coming up, because that just came out of my mouth, is Ego Evolution, how to turn your fear into fuel for growth. So what I'm talking about touches into that. So you have something that's a barrier or a challenge or stopping you or scares you, or has been encoded in such a way that when you attempt to move or shift or take a step, you feel it so much in your system that sometimes you'll feel like, oh, I mustn't be meant to do this. How many in our spiritual development, how many times have you been told, if it doesn't feel good, it mustn't be, right for you? It's not true. It can be true, but it's not truth, because most of the time what you feel in your body, for those on their spiritual journey, is your expansion to your growth edge, which when you lean and touch into that a little, give it a little hug, right? You're at your growth edge. And if you keep moving back from the growth edge, right, you're not getting part. So if you look at this painting, actually, now I look at it, I didn't put it up for this reason. I put it up for the geometry, but you can see the dark boundary. So where the pink meets the dark, we could see that as the growth edge. And in the dark, maybe it's a bit scary. I'm not quite sure. And on one side, I've sort of broken through the barrier a little. Broken, not broken, but merged in. There's some purple and pink over this side that's merged right into the dark. Is the light in the dark. So sometimes it feels like that, doesn't it? Like we're pressing against this barrier or this boundary, or there's an unknown that feels dark and, dingy, I was going to say, but the shadows. But all of that is in your cross section. It all is there. And we can use one as a fuel for the other, both ways. When you know what scares you, right? Not just on the top level, we could do top level, but really in that center, around the set, not the eye, but around the center, right? Where they started. So everything else just touches on it and gives a little wiggle, and it feels like, oh, it's uncomfortable. When you know that, or you have more of an idea, understanding, right? It's less dark, because you know there's a fear there. I'm scared of this, or I find it difficult. It feels uncomfortable. However you language that, there's a barrier here. I can't quite get through it. Why aren't I able to get to this level or this stage or this development? Right. So when you know what that is, then you can create more choice. It's the consciousness. And there's ways of doing that. So we've got to shift over. But today I was calling it the mandala effect because to me, when I was looking at, I literally was writing, this is how I write my bio. I draw circles. And I was like, why do I have to write it like everybody else? So I'm going to get this made up to look pretty, and it's going to be circles. Because literally this is a cross section of an aspect of me. It's not the whole lot of me, but it's an aspect of me that I show the world. And there'll be another one that will have the programs that cross-reference with this, right? But if you look at it, for example, it might be something you do for yourselves, but you know, the circle, the main circle, has all the different branches coming off it, right? So obviously I've got the beloved and the rose and conscious evolution and the purity of unconditional love and the rise. And then I've got healing yourself, healing together, healing others. That's all in the center. And then the modalities around that. So, you know, my credentials, right? So the social science stuff, you know, the creative stuff, the mystic, the healing arts, the martial arts and defense force, the metaphysics, the yogini, you know, the all of that all around, and then all the stuff that comes off that. So if you were to look at, someone said, who are you? That's not who I am in completion. It's an aspect that in business, that's what people want to know. It's the stuff that to me, I'm just the dot. I'm just that center. And all the rest is experience encoded and informs, or can inform if you want it to. You can touch into it, right? But it's not who you are. It's not who I am. Make sense? I'm not my degree. I'm not my piece of paper. I'm not the education. Yet you can't take the education from me. Unless I had a brain injury or was dead, I guess. But could take the knowings with me. All right, so we're going to move over because I can't stay on too long. But so to wrap all that up, the mandala effect. Who are you if you were to draw yourself as a mandala? Because the Jungian understanding of that, and there's other traditions as well, is that it's a cross-section of the individual. So maybe one day we'll actually do the, maybe on Thursday. We'll see. If you want to do that, teach you how to do mandala, your own mandala. But if you want to know and get a cross-section of your codes and your energetics and your barriers and your adaptive strategies, like, you know, how all of that, your relational injury, right? How all of that comes together to impact, inform how you are in the world today, then you can contact me and we can set up a session. We can do a one-off, or we can do it in a one-to-one program. So we are going to move over to our Zoom, our Holistic Mystic Mastermind. So see you later to everybody else that might be watching, and I'll see you on Thursday. If you want to join us, the link will be in the comments there somewhere. So till Thursday, may the blessings be. And over to do our